Hi everyone, welcome to the Autism Family Channel. Today we're going to discuss a topic that has come up repeatedly in our comment section, and that is how our marriage...
How our marriage failed YouTube.
Start over. Okay, do over.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Autism Family Channel. Today we're going to discuss a topic that has come up repeatedly in our comment section, and that is how has our marriage been affected by having children on the autism spectrum? Not just one, but 3 kids. So it's something that's been asked repeatedly, not just how we deal with it, but what are the rates? Like, are you more likely to have a divorce when your children are on the spectrum or have special needs? And so we thought we'd just bring this up because I feel like it's not something that we often discuss. Our relationship and how we parent and deal with the kids isn't as much the front and center as the children themselves, which is as it should be. But yeah, let's talk about it. So.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people actually request this. They've asked how we keep things going with, 3 kids on the spectrum, 3 boys, and how we just make it work because so many people, and, my heart goes out to all of you and, anyone who feels like they're failing and they're just ready to break.
Yeah.
And especially in today's, society and the current economy, the way things are going and just everything piling up. It's hard enough in a neurotypical marriage, right? Especially with divorce rates being high and people quitting and things like that. And we do think that there's reasons for divorce, extreme reasons. But the majority of the time, it just takes, I know it's cliche, but it does take that extra work. But we're going to try to keep it simple.
And so I looked up the answer to that question, by the way. So the National Health Institute says that parents of children on the spectrum have a higher rate of divorce, 23.5% compared to the control group of neurotypical kids. And so, yes, the rate is higher, which is understandable. It's a big stressor, right? And marriage is a lot of work. I think everyone comes into marriage thinking they're going to be in it for the long haul, they're going to be together forever, or at least, try to make it work, right? But making 2 people stay together and not just, cohabitate, but be like genuinely happy, it can be difficult sometimes. I mean,
is it too early to get into babysitting?
A little. I wanted to take us back. Let's go back to the very beginning. We were married in 2006, December 14th, here in Bountiful, Utah. It was one of the best days of my life. Felt really just excited and happy and optimistic about the future. We had no idea.
One of the best?
It was it was one of the best days of my life. And I remember feeling so positive and so excited. And we had a baby right away because we were so excited to start our lives together. And Ian came in 2008 and he had a bit of a scary birth. He was born with the cord wrapped around his neck and he had been without oxygen for a little while. And
he came out looking like an Avatar baby. He was totally blue. It
was scary as
I've
a
never
first-time
seen anything
parent.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, even though I was a first-time parent, I knew something was wrong, and I saw a look in the nurses' faces, and they were new nurses, so they didn't really know what to do. And I was just like, "Please go get oxygen now." Yeah. They ran and got some help, and fortunately, Ian made it, but just barely.
Yeah. No, he pinked up, and after a couple days in the NICU, he was happy and healthy. We took him home. And it wasn't until a few months later that we started noticing that he wasn't hitting the milestones that he needed to.
Yeah. Not that necessarily causes autism per se, and that's a whole other topic for discussion.
No, and it could be the lack of oxygen contributed to something else.
It didn't help.
But yeah, a few months went by and he started crawling and babbling and smiling and but he had difficulty communicating, right? Like he really had a hard time with the baby talk.
He didn't laugh for almost a year.
It took a long time for him.
He was just such a quiet baby at first.
Yeah, he didn't take his first steps till he was about 15, 16 months old.
Yeah.
And so it was late. Like he had already the repetitive rocking movements. Like we were joking that he would have the abs of steel as a toddler because he would just rock repetitively so often and
hit his head on the
wall of the crib. Yep, and he and would just scream, 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 and we had no idea how to
That was the worst part, was the night
reach out
terrors.
to him.
And I said he's a quiet baby, and he was, but not at night. He would have these horrible, horrible night terrors and wake up screaming so loud that the neighbors called us and said, "What's wrong? Do we need to call
Yeah, are
an
you
ambulance?
hurting that baby?"
Yeah, do we need to call the police or anything?" We're
just-
like, "No, he's freaking out. He's having I didn't even know what a night terror
He
was.
was a little
at the
bit
time.
older, like
Yeah.
a couple years old when we got him tested. I want to say age 3.
Yeah,
Because-
that's when I was really starting to panic, and because I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, did I make a huge mistake? Because I heard being a parent is one of the most amazing things, and this happened night after night, and we both had really bad sleep deprivation, and we were really not at each other's throats, but we just were like more short with each other.
Well, you have
because
a-
we were stressed out.
You have a vision in your head of what you think parenthood's going to be like, and until you are a parent, you don't know, right? You have no idea what you're in for, and we knew it wouldn't be all roses and rainbows, but it was more difficult in certain ways than we thought it would be. In fact, Rob's told me before that it made him question his ability to be a father, to be a parent, which I thought was crazy at the time, and I was emotional. I was, what do you mean? Do you regret it? But yeah, like, talk about your feelings about that. Like, once we got him diagnosed and everything, did it kind of set you back? Like, oh my gosh,
No, I don't think it was right at the time he got diagnosed, because that made more sense to me that something was going on.
Was that a relief, finding out how we could help him?
I think so. I mean, we're just so new to it.
Yeah.
My sister suggested, because I called her because she's a family therapist and everything, and she was listening to me, and she's like, "Rob, I think Ian might be autistic. I think he might have autism." And I'm like, "What's that?"
Yeah, we
No
were
clue.
clueless. We had no idea what autism was.
Yeah.
I kind of heard of the movie Rain Man and Temple Grandin,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
It's
We
not
did
well,
not know
and
much.
even back in 2006, it wasn't nearly as much of a household name as it is today. And that's one of the reasons we started this channel, was to help educate others, to help others understand what these kids are going through.
So yeah, let's talk about how did we deal with those challenges, because it wasn't just Ian, it was all 3 of them, all 3 that ended up being tested on the spectrum and
Yeah, so
being on there.
that's another interesting
And
point.
people have asked us, like, why'd you keep having more kids? We're like, well, we didn't know.
Yeah, when you don't know the cause, it's not like
Yeah, we didn't know we'd have 3. I mean,
there's first-time parent. Well, we were first-time parents,
Yeah.
but there's people who just roll the dice and they get an autistic kid or Down syndrome kid. Like, you never know. And granted, by the number 3, because we thought Alistair, because he had a very, very healthy birth, like dream birth, and he still ended up on the spectrum. So we've talked about it in other videos, but long story short is, you don't know what you don't know. And once Alistair got diagnosed, and I saw the stress that was going on with Brittany, and like that she was at her limit,
yes.
and I was almost there too. I'm like, I'm gonna get a vasectomy, and that's a very hard decision, because in our faith we're very much, we promote strong families and things like that, and not to go off on a tangent here, but you've seen in other countries, maybe like Japan, where they have, more of a demographic winter, what can happen when people stop having babies.
Yeah.
And those societies can really struggle. But anyway, long story short, I know there's extremes in both directions, but it was really hard for us to make that decision.
I wanted more children. I didn't feel like we were done.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of prayer and contemplation and talking to realize that our limit had been reached, that especially with the future. I remember when Ian got diagnosed, or was it Connor? No, it was Connor. It was Connor. And the social worker who was helping, she told us, she had an adult child on the spectrum herself. She said, you need to consider the fact that your child will likely depend on you more than a neurotypical child will, even later in life. They may live with you. You may have, not the burden, but the responsibility that extends past their childhood to care for them. And that was something that weighs heavily on our minds now.
Yeah, if we ended up having, like, say, I don't know, 5 to 8 kids or something like that, and they all ended up being on the spectrum, we would be probably bankrupt, realistically. So it depends on the family, it depends on the income, it depends.
Yep.
So just, you're gonna have to make those tough decisions, and yeah, we were really, long story short, just really taken back by the whole thing. And we had some family members and friends who were in denial. That was really difficult because once I finally embraced the fact that Ian was autistic and I started learning about it, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I understand what's going on now. There was some family members at the time who were just like, no,
That's not a real disorder. They're just brats.
Just needs a good old fashioned spanking. I'm sure you've all heard that stuff. They eventually came around. They figured it out once they started getting older. And they had some very socially awkward things going on, and how they talked and how they didn't talk, and how they had meltdowns and sensory issues. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe something is going on here.
And I find that's true. The older they get, the more the differences can become apparent.
Yeah.
Except perhaps for our middle child, who tends to mask a bit more than the other two.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So being on the same page, I think, really helps a marriage. Like
that is number one.
Yeah. I think one spouse is in denial and the other one is ready to get therapies and everything, that can be really difficult.
Well, not even just denial that it's been diagnosed and this is how it is and this is our life. How we go forward with it. How do we discipline them? How do we raise them? How do we prioritize their therapy, the time that we spend parenting them versus working or doing other things.
Yeah. And you have to make that decision together, or else the other spouse is going to resent it.
Well, I spent a good chunk of our marriage at home raising the boys. And for me, I was grateful to do so. I did work a little bit outside of the home here and there to help make ends meet. But for the majority of the time, I was the caregiver. I was the homemaker. I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything. And it was difficult. We had one car for, 14 years?
Something like that.
A long time. Rough. And it was difficult. And when I get so irritated when people are like, oh, how nice. You get to stay home with the kids. You must be rich. And I'm like, look, I didn't have student loan debt. I didn't have other things that would have hindered that.
There's no one who was going to watch the kids. We tried a babysitter at the time, and
I have a great deal of sympathy for those and empathy for those who are trying to find caregivers for their kids on the spectrum, because it's almost impossible to find not only qualified ones that you like that are affordable. It's a real problem. I chose to stay home and help with taking them to therapy, taking them to school activities, helping them at home, because a great deal of how we helped them was here at home as well.
Yeah, Brittany is working now, but she's at a place and the kids are at a place where that's a lot more possible. It wasn't possible when they were little and they couldn't talk and they would just point and grunt.
Well, they
weren't even potty trained in some sense, and
there was a long time coming for them to be potty trained.
Yeah, all kinds of issues. But yeah, just make those decisions together.
And I think this question's funny. Like, how did it affect our marriage having kids on the spectrum? We don't know anything else. Like other parents who have kids that are neurotypical and autistic, I think maybe they'd be better qualified to tell us what it's like and what the differences are. Because for me, I'm like, well, there's this flavor and this flavor and that flavor,
Maybe just a little bit, because I think there's a lot of parents out there who have their expectations subverted. And that's where, and we've talked about it many times on the channel, all that disappointment is when an expectation isn't met. So you're going to have to hard reset a lot of your expectations if you want to have a happy life. So you might not have a huge birthday party for your kid. There might be like 2 or 3 that show up, if that. You might not be able to go on certain vacations. You might have to, pivot and do something else that's still fun, but that's also autism friendly. You might have to make other sacrifices in life, but there'll also be other blessings. It's just different.
What do you think also helps us not be one of the divorce statistic?
Well, we talk about this a lot, especially me. I really, really put a strong emphasis on date nights and romance and things like that.
We could be better about the frequency, but...
Yeah, always.
Yeah. But it's also a daily thing. We talk to each other every single day. We are sharing our day. We're, good morning. Hi, how are you? I kiss him goodbye when I leave. And we have that constant communication as kind of part of our day. And I think that's something that has kept the love alive over the years, that we're not just, roommates, putting in time, have you done the chores? Have you done the lawn? This, that, we're also friends, and that's important.
Yeah, starting out on the right page 2.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not married yet and you're thinking about getting married and you're concerned about this stuff, or maybe you're going to marry someone who already has an autistic kid, make sure your core values align, because if they don't, it's going to be very difficult.
I agree. Yeah, you have to have a good deal of self-sacrifice, I think, to make a marriage work, because you're stronger together, but there's that loss of freedom that a lot of single people don't realize until they are married. You have to...
Oh man, that is a whole can of worms nowadays, isn't it? There's
yes,
so many
yes, it is.
self-centered people, and I know I can be selfish sometimes, and Brittany, sure.
You? Never. But you have to have an appreciation for your spouse's likes and dislikes, their differences.
Be selfless.
You have to have
help the
respect.
other person out.
Yeah, you have to understand also that things will change as you both get older. And that's something we're coming through as our children age and change, that we've had to approach parenting from a different dynamic as well, especially with the last few years. I've been working part-time, and that's changed things quite a bit. Rob's had to step up, helping clean more at the home, and a lot more interaction. And he talks with the kids probably 5 times a week about whatever thoughts are in their head, whatever questions they have, and he's great at that. And I love that he can...
It probably came at a good time too, because we have 3 boys, and they need a fatherly influence. So as they're entering or are in teenagehood, they need that kind of father figure to help them with that.
Yes.
Help them through some of the things they're going through. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Make your marriage a priority in action, not just in word. Cannot stress it enough. However that is, schedule things if you have to.
Yep.
Pencil your spouse and make them feel important, because, I mean, that's what this video is about.
Keep the romance alive.
Keep the romance alive. Make time for that, because if you don't, man, that. So many parents are just, well, I'll get to it. I don't feel like it right now, or, I'm not in the mood. And it's like, well, are you in the mood for divorce? Do you feel like a divorce?
Well,
do you want that instead? Because that's where it leads eventually, right?
I know we seem like we're a united front all the time on this channel, but we disagreed on how to discipline them. Whether or not it was okay to spank them, whether or not, we'd raise our voices, or how would we punish them? How would we reward them? Is it always food treats? Is it stickers? Is it other things? There were a lot of
little things like how much sugar is in the house and stuff like that.
We disagree about, yes. And some of these arguments we still have, and we joke about that.
Well, and some things aren't a big deal.
Yeah,
They're just not.
And some things we've learned to let go of. So.
Yeah, learn how to pick your battles if you haven't already.
That's a huge piece of advice.
What hill do you want to die on, right? Because there's some people who just get so into the weeds with, diets and therapies and, what they need for their kid and how much sacrifices they have to make for their marriage in order to make this work with their kids. And again, you are telling your spouse when you do that, not that you shouldn't take care of your kid. That's an element too. You have to balance things out. But if you're constantly pushing your spouse to the side for your autistic loved one, understand that while that might have good motives to begin with, you're telling your spouse something.
And you're telling your child something.
Yeah.
Because kids are happiest when they know that their parents love one another, when they see them in a solid, stable home. They feel more secure and they grow up, I think, better. Not that single families can't have that as well, but I think deep down every child yearns to know that their parents love one another and love them. On an end note, marriage is worthwhile. And it's difficult, especially with kids on the spectrum, but it can be done. I mean, like I said earlier, we're coming on 19 years.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about how rewarding it can be and how amazing it can be. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has struggles.
Yeah.
Don't make autism be an excuse for bailing out when you're needed. I think that would be a mistake. It's very important to keep marriages together. Again, if there's something really toxic, that's a different thing. But
well, would you say go to therapy if you had something that was insurmountable, something that you guys were just clashing on, you felt like you couldn't fix together?
Therapy can be good. It can be good to have a third party to help you out and stuff like that.
It depends on the therapist.
So we just don't give up and say, let's just throw all that away because times are hard, or, marriage is on the rocks or anything like that.
I can't do it anymore. I can't parent or deal with these kids anymore. I get why people think that, but as I look past our lives together and the way we've grown together, it's so worth it. Nothing has been more rewarding than being a mother and wife for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I love being a father more than anything now. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you have that question in your mind, and I'm divulging that to all of you because I know some of you have thought that before.
Yeah, we're keeping it real.
Yeah, I know some of you have seriously considered either bailing on the family or bailing on marriage.
Or maybe you've had someone bail on you,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, if that's happened, our hearts go out to you.
It takes two to make a marriage work, and there's not much you can do if the other person isn't willing.
Yep.
So, but we're willing, right?
Yeah,
Keep going.
If you deep down do love your spouse, fight for them.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you do everything you can to keep them.
Yep.
And realize that if you're a champion of autism, then that's part of it. Because kids love it when their parents are together, and it's healthy. They love it.
Yes. So try to find that united front together. Reach decisions together on how you raise your kids and how you support each other. It's important.
Yeah. Plus, Brittany's a babe. I mean, look at her.
Thanks.
I know what I have.
Oh my gosh. Keep the marriage alive. All right. Well, thanks for sharing this video with us. What's kept your marriage going? What troubles have you had parenting a child with autism, and how has it affected your relationships? Not just marriage, but in your family as well. We'd love to know. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. All our love to you guys.
Yeah.
Truly. It's a rough road. I wish I could answer all your comments and questions. I really do.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. And
We try.
There's so many things I
Yeah.
wish I could say on this video.
Ending on that note, marriage is good. It's possible to stay married. Just keep at it. All right? And with that, we'll let you go. Take care.